When I was in college in the early 2000s, a sophomore drove his car into a bunch of kids out partying on a Saturday a block and a half from where I was living. He was going 60 to 70 miles per hour, swiping cars parked on the side of the road before he hit the crowd. I think 4 people died. He got out screaming nonsense before being tackled. Was on a handful of drugs. Last I heard he was in a mental facility. High school acquaintances were partying underage and some other kids with drama were buzzing the party in some stupid loud car. Drunk guy thinks the best way to handle this is to throw a huge paving stone at the car on one of its passes. Stone goes through a window, hits passenger, mid-body lap, not head. Driver panics and refuses to take passenger to hospital. Apparently everybody was under the influence. She bled out of internal injuries in the hours that followed. Guy who threw the stone is still in prison for manslaughter. ETA sorry, will hear some answers to the best of my ability. No charges against the driver, sorry. Yes, still in jail, very reticent from all reports, was trying to mess up car, not people, doesn't excuse it, just a detail about intent. Also I should have maybe rephrased how I know of these people. We were high school age when we met briefly, not I knew them through my own high school. I had a friend, my old and first best friend in middle school. We were closer than my actual brother, and same for him. He was without a doubt my rock and I was his. He was a very good and talented marching drummer in general. The dude was learning college licks and rudiments top tier in little hours. It was fucking insane. He got to play with UCLA and USC's drumline at 14 and didn't miss a beat with them. His mom unfortunately passed away when he was 15. He turned to heavy drugs, insane amount of drinking and fucking anything that walked. I recently saw him in the beginning of March and I won't lie, I didn't even recognize him. It took me a solid 30 seconds to realize who he was that was calling my name. Extremely skinny, bags under eyes, greasy hair and dirty teeth. I felt fucking terrible and I couldn't do anything. But what could I do? He ran away from home, dropped out of school, wasn't on any social media, had no contact with family and honestly, had no family at all besides his dad, aunt, 2 extremely distant cousins and a brother in the Marines. I haven't seen or heard from him since. He could have passed away and I wouldn't have known. I had a friend years back, always kind of an odd guy, but he had a good heart. Anyway, one day, I was hanging out with him and a few other friends and he told us he was going to get a tattoo tomorrow and had this super cool idea, but he wouldn't tell us what it was because he wanted it to be a surprise. We saw him about a week later. He had tattooed 3/4 of his face green. Like, no design or anything, just solid dark forest green. Basically, he just left the top right quarter of his face normal and the rest was all green. He had been immediately fired from his job the day after getting the tattoo. I kind of lost touch with him shortly after that, since he moved to another city. I'd heard he wound up living in his car. No idea why he did what he did. He'd had a very good job in IT at a pretty big company and was making decent money. No clue why he thought permanently turning 3/4 of his face green would be super awesome. About 50 years ago when my great-uncle was in his early 20s he drove home so drunk that he ran over and killed 2 college students and didn't even realize it. After his initial incarceration he didn't know how to function as a free citizen so he keeps getting himself sent back to jail. For example, he got out of jail around a year ago and couldn't make his first month's rent. His solution was to walk to the convenience store, steal a beer, and sit on the curb waiting for the cops to arrive. I had a few friends who would put more time into WoW or other games than work, school, and homework. One of my friends was very smart and hardworking but had a sort of bad home life and I guess games were an escape from that. He got held back in his last year of high school and ended up joining the military instead of being able to afford college. Now he has PTSD and pushed everyone who cared about him away. Not a ruined life in a minute story, but gaming can be a very serious addiction. I think what makes it insidious is the illusion of accomplishment and progression. When things aren't going well and you feel like a loser in your own life, you can play a video game and feel like a winner. Video games are designed to be challenging but ultimately fair and doable. Real life isn't really like that. So that makes them more appealing. Now everyone will use one media or another or many as an escape: books, movies, TV, etc. But only video games really make you feel like you are winning and doing better at life when you play them. You may get caught up with a fictional character and feel a sort of second-hand catharsis when they do something like finally beat a bad guy or whatever. But in a video game it really is you that's besting a challenge. Just not one with real-life consequences. Everyone needs this sense of accomplishment, but if you get it from video games you tend not to seek it out as much in real life. Think of it like a Skinner box experiment. One button always gives you a reward. The other button sometimes does. You're just gonna keep pushing the one that always works. Me and a friend were at a party and two girls took us to a back room for some fooling around. My friend was giving one of the girls a massage as she lay face down on a pile of cushions. She pulled her skirt up, hooked her underpants to one side and said "fuck me." My friend was a virgin at this point, couldn't believe his luck and pulled out his dick and stuck it in. Came literally as he entered her. And that's how he became a parent at 17. He loves his kid, but that event messed him up so much, it effectively destroyed his education, job prospects and caused major issues in his immediate family that are still going on today. I am friends with a guy and through him knew his younger sister. Smart, pretty, cool. She was doing well in college. Meets a guy and decided to get married after a few weeks without telling anyone. So she moves in with him and all of a sudden he has too much back pain to work, so she's trying to take classes and support them both. He lays around all day smoking pot which she buys for his pain, while she does school and waits tables all night. She also likes to party with him. It's revealed they've both been doing a lot of acid. She, of course, drops out of college a few credits short of graduating. By this point her parents and friends are begging her to come to her senses and take their help to get back and finish college, invite both of them to move in and do all the drugs they want as long as she finishes school. Her and the husband decided the student loans plus both his and her car loans are too much, so they parked the cars at the bank with notes in the windshield that they do not want them anymore and disappeared. They left a note for her parents that they were moving out west or to Mexico and haven't been heard from in over 15 years. My friend heard rumors that the guy was pimping his sister out at one point, but that was after they left that he heard, too late to do anything. About 5 years ago he told me he thinks she is probably dead, but the parents are expecting her to come back any day now. The parents used to be joyous people. Edit, since this is blowing up there's more context. She loved her parents so much and didn't want to go away to college, she commuted to a university in the city. She was a junior when she met him. We smoked weed and she always looked down on us for it, so her doing acid and weed and ecstasy all of the sudden was really shocking. The family wasn't very religious, but the husband got her obsessed with the Book of Revaluations, and one of the interactions I had with her we were all hyped and she told me that the world was ending soon and I needed to read Revaluations. They disappeared on purpose to get out of all the loan debt. It's believed that they changed identities. There's some confusion amongst the friend group if the guy was Mormon or not, but my closest friend is convinced she's living in a fundamentalist Mormon cult in northern Mexico, which he says is a thing. I agree with the brother that they both probably got into harder drugs and she's dead. There's addiction in the family, and she went from not drinking to daily weed acid roll so quick. And moving away from family to pursue drugs is classic addict behavior. Worked in the German social welfare system aka Sachbearbeitungssozialamt. A client of mine said he thinks that my calculations would be wrong after his wife left him, because he got not enough money. I asked him if he had any expenses I didn't know of. He was sure he gave me all infos. I asked him to bring me all his invoices, vouchers, receipts etc., which he did a few days later. I read all his papers and found a payslip that I didn't know of. According to my files he got social welfare at this time and I had no infos that he had a job with income, which would be social welfare fraud. I kept reading and I found a so-called Versicherungspolice, an insurance policy for a 5er BMW. You should know that back in the day a car was a salvageable capital aka he had to have his car sold to use that money for groceries etc. It was mid-90s, it's different now. Then I found the purchase contract for the car. Expensive and with installment payments. Then I found the contract with the bank that gave him the loan for the car. So I called the bank and asked them why the hell they are giving a loan that big to an unemployed social welfare recipient. The woman from the bank began to panic, because that's new information to her. And while she was trying to explain what happened, The loan had burst because my client didn't pay TC. I figured out that something is wrong with the payslip. You should know that in Germany, the 4-digit postal code including the sublocal code, like 1000 Berlin 44, was changed to a 5-digit postal code, 12345 Berlin, in 1993. The payslip was from 1995 but the postal code on that thing was from 1993. A former acquaintance was playing around with a homemade crossbow that I had helped him with. I was massively into archery and fletching, and he seemed serious about it. I typically made him leave it with me because deadly weapon. I have an explanation, he kinda didn't. Anyway, to convince his parents to let him join an archery club he wanted to show off the crossbow we made. I thought it was a decent plan so I let him take it without any ammo. Turns out he was gaming me to get more player time with his favorite toy, had gotten hold of some bolts, and was fucking around shooting his shed a fair bit. He somehow ended up firing a bolt that missed the shed completely, passed between the slats on his fence, and hit his neighbor's daughter in the spine. She hasn't walked since. He got fucked up real bad by her unstable older brother. They both did jail time. Acquaintance was disowned and ended up homeless, and now I am not sure where they are in life. Edit. I've had a few people comment that even a stable person would want to fuck up someone for something like this. Truth told, I half agree. I still feel like it's important information to the situation, however, and just want to qualify the statement. The beating he got was brutal, involved a crowbar, and left him with a broken femur. The difference between wanting to do something like that and actually acting on it is important. Also, we were 18 at the time. The girl was 12, her brother 21, for all those asking. Edit 2. The brother had a history of anger management issues and drug abuse, and a small list of prior misdemeanors. This man isn't someone you should be elevating just because his negativity was concentrated on someone who you say deserved it. I am not here to argue about the ethics of his actions, or whether or not his instability was a factor in his reaction. It was. Stable people don't find revelry in inflicting grievous bodily harm on others. 2 wrongs, eye for an eye, and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.